Hi Suspects, this is a nuclear book review from Anna, for a change. She suggested that I do a nuclear book review this week, this month, this day, this hour, because I read the book The Once and Future King by T.H. White, and probably the best book I've ever read, definitely one of the best books I've read in a long, long time. For those who don't know, it's the King Arthur stories basically compiled in giant novel format. It's 650 pages long. Stop growling at me. Pete's gonna contribute his thoughts on the subject. But it's basically the King Arthur stories, and I don't know how much you know about the King Arthur stories, but basically, he's a little boy, he meets Merlin, who's an old man, and he pulls a sword out of his stone and he becomes King of England. And then he decides that justice is a good thing, and he creates a round table full of knights, foremost of them being Sir Lancelot from France, and Sir Lancelot falls in love with his wife, Guinevere, and terrible things ensue. But everyone knows that story, so that's not the interesting part of the book. The interesting part of the book is the way that T.H. White writes. Every part of the book makes you think. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry. That's such a bad cliche, but it does. And it makes you incredibly angry, and it makes you incredibly happy in parts, and it makes you think very deeply about good and evil in the world, what is right, what is justice. This round table that Arthur tries to create, he creates it, and succeeds by he tries to channel the might of the world into right, because he believes that might is not right. So he gets all the best knights together, and they go and fight these evil barons, the kind of people who keep damsels captive that need rescuing, and they go on this mission to find the Holy Grail, because after a while they get bored, because they've conquered the might, they've made good in England, and they have nothing else to do, so the purest knights go and find the Holy Grail, and that's a big adventure. One of the annoying things that T.H. White does in this book is he constantly references the Morte d'Arthur, which is kind of the foremost authority on the Arthur stories, this 1,000-page monstrosity by Sir Thomas Malory, and he's like, if you want to read about this tournament and how exciting it was, go read Malory, as if he's mad at Sir Thomas Malory for being more famous than he is. But, as I've discovered, T.H. White is pretty darn famous, because I was at the Montclair bookstore the other day, looking at the bird books, because if you haven't noticed, I like birds, and I saw this book called The Goshawk, and I noticed that it was written by T.H. White. Ooh! And that made me very happy, because T.H. White was a falconer, and it shows up a lot in his book. Actually, reading The Goshawk now as I am, you can see kind of how he was already thinking about writing The Once and Future King, which is very interesting too. I want to read you this quote, because it really spoke to me out of all quotes in the book. It's a paragraph. T.H. White is thinking about how medieval people are different from modern people, or the same, how we've changed becoming modern people from these supposed savages in the Dark Ages. And it says, "Did you know that in these Dark Ages, which were visible from Guinevere's window, there was so much decency in the world that the Catholic Church could impose a peace to all their fighting, which it called the Truce of God, and which lasted from Wednesday to Monday, as well as during the whole of Advent and Lent? Do you think that they, with their battles, famine, black death, and serfdom, were less enlightened than we are with our wars, blockade, influenza, and conscription? Even if they were foolish enough to believe that the earth was the center of the universe, do we not ourselves believe that man is the fine flower of creation? If it takes 1,000,000 years for a fish to become a reptile, has man, in our few hundred, altered out of recognition?" I really like that. It just made me think. You get a good sense of all the character of the knights as T.H. White saw them. There's many different accounts of the King Arthur story, and therefore there's many different accounts of the knights. You have, Sir Lancelot, and anybody who's seen Camelot the musical knows that he's gorgeous, and he's French, and he's got that accent, and he falls in love with Guinevere, and she falls in love with him. It's like, ah! But actually Lancelot is supposed to be quite ugly. Like, he hated himself when he was a boy, and he met Arthur, and it was just like he worshipped Arthur, and he strove to become a knight so he could one day join the court. There's Sir Gawain, who is head of the Orkney clan, as they call them. I could go and explain the whole story, but there are 4 brothers from Scotland who are Knights of the Round Table. There's Gawain, who's the oldest, Agravain, who's evil, Gaheris, who's stupid, and Gareth, who's ultimately a good guy. And then there's a fifth one, Mordred. He's really evil. Don't trust Mordred. Mordred is Arthur's illegitimate son. And Gawain is like the second best knight, but he's kind of temperamental. He's in the beginning of the book. It's like he accidentally cuts off ladies' heads all the time. Not good, Gawain. Stop that. Very bad. But then, I mean, the whole story, the Holy Grail, you meet the purest knights, who are Sir Galahad, Sir Bors, and Sir Percival. It's not clear in The Once and Future King who finds the Holy Grail. It's one of those three, but he never mentions. There's different versions of the story that say it's Galahad, and there's different versions of the story that say it's Sir Bors. Galahad is described in this book as kind of an angel, but not in a way that he's like, oh, look, he's an angel, he's a nice guy, look at that Galahad there. No, it's like he's kind of frightening because he's so pure and good, and I didn't really like that. There are bad parts of the book. I'm just telling about the good parts, because there's so many good parts. It gets boring in the middle. The whole Lancelot and Guinevere thing, where Lancelot's, like, hating himself or falling in love with his best friend's wife, that's not really good. Then he goes on this Grail quest, and he kind of finds God, and he kind of loves God more than Guinevere, and Guinevere gets upset because she's basically an atheist. Guinevere's not a good character in this book, either. The only... There are no sympathetic characters in this book. Maybe that's why I like it. Nobody's pure good. Arthur is kind of young and naive, even when he's 80 years old and dying in his tent about to go fight Mordred. One of the funny things that was explained in this book that I really liked was, Arthur is an arranged marriage with Guinevere. Arthur is actually 8 years older than Guinevere, which makes the whole Lancelot-Guinevere pairing a little more sympathetic, because they're kind of the same age, and Arthur's like their older brother. But the reason that Arthur married Guinevere was because Guinevere's father had this round table that Arthur needed. He was like, what should I do? I'm going to make justice with knights. And we can't have them sit at a square table, because then that's favoritism. So let's make it a round table. But Merlin's like, hey, you don't have a round table. And Arthur's like, right. But I know somebody who has one. And they got the round table as their wedding present. Hilarious. So anyway, T.H. White, The Once and Future King. Read it.